All right. Good morning, everybody. Today is October 2nd, 2025. This is Derita Matters for October. Just I am firstly, let me just introduce myself, Teresa MacDonald. I'm on the board of Derita Statesville Road Community Organization, on the Planning Commission for the City of Charlotte. I'm a realtor in the broader Charlotte area, and been a resident of Derita since 2007, Allen Hills. And just to orient us for these meetings, this graphic map, not necessarily to scale, but this is roughly the area that we cover. Downtown Derita is at Mallard Creek and West Sugar Creek. And to the west, we have 77, or really Statesville Road is kind of the boundary there, but there's in some areas there's not much between Statesville and 77, and in other areas it's really part of historic West End. So, but 77 in the west, 85 in the south, and then Harris Boulevard forms that sort of kind of like a heart shape that we focus on for these meetings. And there's another view of from Google Maps that shows roughly the same area. It's a 2.5 mile radius approximately from the Mallard Creek and Sugar Creek intersection. Again, the same area. This is showing the different census tracts that compile that area, where I get a lot of the data that I will quote, or where I will go to research if we have questions about data. This is the Quality of Life Explorer. It's Urban Land Institute and the City of Charlotte, I think, put that site together. Lots of great data there. You can really drill down to the tiny little census tract and get all sorts of data. And there's some of the data that I pulled. This will be from the beginning of 2025, and just shows really, we're at the intersection of 3 different city council districts. We have 6 voting precincts within this area. So we fall under 1 county commission district. And sometimes George Dunlap joins us on these calls. We're very grateful for him. And of course, elections are coming up. So there'll be some at-large city council that you guys can weigh in on. And depending on which district you're in, you may have some decisions to make. I'm not sure that any of these have any opposition in November, but we'll talk about that another time. Our meetings, we have one more in November, one more Zoom, and we'll probably do a Zoom on December 4th as usual, but we will also plan an in-person gathering, some kind of holiday party, possibly at Maria's, because they are offering that their venue for different events. So we'll talk about that, and that'll be probably during the day on a Saturday in December. So just keep an eye out for those dates as we confirm things. And then let's just quickly go around and introduce yourselves, and then we'll go straight to our special guest, Dan Morrill, who will introduce himself at the end of our go round. So let me just go to, I see a couple of board members, or maybe just one. Thomas Templeton.
Yeah, this is Thomas Templeton. I happen to be a lifelong resident of Derita, born and raised and lived in Derita my whole life. I've been the chairman of the Royal Oaks Neighborhood Association in the past, and currently serve as a board member for the Derita Statesville Road organization still.
Thank you, Thomas. All right, Robert Shepherd. You have to unmute.
Here we are.
There you are.
I'm a resident of Derita since 1993, moved here from Philadelphia, and just an interested resident of the community. Own a house here in Farmington, and where I've been since May of 1994, I actually moved into the house. So interested to see what's happening.
Awesome, thank you. Jeffrey, speaking of Farmington.
Yes, Jeffrey Simpson. I'm the president of the Farmington HOA. Bob, who you just spoke to, Robert, I call him Eagle Eye. He's our treasurer and a very valuable addition to the HOA. Been around for several years, and all the different boards I'm on. Tuesday, I'm not going to even mention them, but I guess I'm just a glutton for pain. But I'm glad to be here and look forward to hearing this presentation.
Okay, thank you. Teresa Braswell, speaking of HOAs.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Teresa Braswell, and I am a resident of Forest Pond. I've been a resident for 18 years. I'm also the president of the HOA. I've been president for about 3.5 years, close to 4.
Awesome. Thank you, Teresa. Let's see. Mark Watson.
Hey everyone, I'm over by Mineral Springs and Neal, and I think that based on geographic boundaries and barriers, that pretty much that's Derita. I'm just a local interested yokel. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill Stevenson. Are you there, Jill?
So sorry, I had it on mute still. I said, good morning, everybody. This is Jill Stevenson. I am the HOA president for Generals Point along Gibbon Road. Been here for 24 years now.
Awesome. Thank you. Carrie Miller, welcome.
Hi there. Hi, Teresa. Good morning. I'm Carrie Miller. I am a community advocate. I am a part of the Avalon at Mallard Creek HOA right across the street from Forest Pond on the corner of Nevin and Mallard Creek, and right in front of Teresa Elder Park. So we are definitely in Derita, and really eager to hear the presentation today so I can communicate back to the rest of the community. Happy to be here.
Thank you. And then we have Kelsey Preston from the city of Charlotte. You there?
Good morning. My name is Kelsey Preston, and I am with the Corridors Opportunity Community Engagement Lead with the City of Charlotte.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, Dan. We're going to go to you to introduce yourself. And I had just made one little slide that shows the one property that I hope you will be talking about a little bit. I'm not sure how much you can share, but yeah, our special guest is Dan Morrill of Preserve Mecklenburg. So without further ado, we're ready to hear from you, sir.
Well, I'll be very brief. I was born in Charlotte. I hate to tell you, I'm about to celebrate my 88th birthday. So, born in 1937 in Charlotte, grew up in Winston-Salem. I got an undergraduate degree from Wake Forest, a PhD from Emory University. I taught at UNCC for 51 years. In addition to that, I was the consulting director of the Charlotte Mecklenburg Historic Landmarks Commission from 1974 until 2019 as a consultant. Since then, I've been an administrative consultant with Preserve Mecklenburg, which is a private nonprofit preservation agency. I am fundamentally a history teacher. I'm committed to the idea that communities enrich themselves in so many ways if they have a sense of cultural continuity, and that the most important artifacts that we have to teach us about that cultural continuity is the built or man-made environment, and that we need to try to keep a sense of history in that environment. So that's who I am.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Do you want to share your slides?
Well, let's see if this works again. We got it working.
Yes.
Let's see if we get it working again. Let's see. It'll take me. It might take me a little bit of a minute, but I think I can do it pretty quickly. Wait a minute. Yes. Yes. Here we go. Okay, just a minute. I will be there. I will be there as God is my witness. Okay. Now, first of all, let me kind of speak about what you're seeing. What I'm talking about, Derita, I understand that Derita is broader than just the old Derita, which, by the way, has absolutely no historical difference in terms of its origin from Huntersville, Cornelius, Davidson, Matthews, and Pineville. And that is, of course, its history is all related to the railroad. Mecklenburg County was transformed in the 1850s by the arrival of the railroad. Prior to that, in order for you to get from here to Raleigh, it took the better part of a week. And that was if the wagons stayed together and the horses kept pulling whatever you were doing. So that was a revolutionary event. And Derita has exactly the same purpose that these other railroad towns did. It was supporting farmers, and they were predominantly cotton farmers because cotton was truly the gold of Mecklenburg County in the mid-19th century. So it's got a very, very understandable, rich, and interesting history. Now, what's happened to Derita, it's been gobbled up. It's been gobbled up by Charlotte, and it was the first one to be gobbled up by the outreach of the city, and the others are now experiencing the same thing. So, and by the way, the real transformation of Derita, as you know it, is because when that light rail or that heavy rail, when that commuter rail gets up that railroad track, my dear friends, to say that things are going to change in Derita is a small, small issue. By the way, the reason the railroad runs where it does, it runs on the ridge line between two fundamental watersheds. The Catawba, which is very close by to the west, and the Yadkin PD to the east. As you well know, your creeks run different directions. Sugar Creek and Mallard Creek run in totally different directions because they're on either side of that ridge. So that's sort of the background. Let me also say, before I get into these pictures and talk a little bit more broadly, anything I say is in no way going to be critical of any agency that's involved in preservation. Because we're all trying to do the same thing. We're trying to preserve basically a sense of history. But there is a tremendous difference between Preserve Mecklenburg, for example, and a governmental commission. Now, and Charlotte is blessed, and Mecklenburg County is blessed with having an active public preservation infrastructure. Charlotte has an historic district commission. Davidson has an historic district commission. There is a historic landmarks commission, which covers all the county except Mint Hill. They don't participate in the cooperative arrangement thereby. And they are very worthwhile agencies. But I want to emphasize to you, they can't stop anything from being torn down. Not one thing. People think, oh, I've got a historic district. Oh, my stuff's protected. All they can do is delay demolition for a year. That's all. Same thing's true with an historic landmark. People say, oh, it's been designated as a historic landmark. That means it can be preserved and I don't have to worry about what's going to happen. My dear friends, all they can do is delay demolition for up to 1 year. So the governmental agencies can't really guarantee saving anything. Now, people talk about the National Register of Historic Places, which is a federal program. It too, if there's no federal or state money or licensing involved in a project, the National Register isn't even involved. The National Register is simply a planning tool for the federal government, and the state of North Carolina participates in that. They can't stop anything from being torn down. They will not stop anything from being torn down. So people say, well, by the way, there are over 300,000 properties in the United States. I'm sorry. I got a little bit eager there. There are thousands. I can't give the exact number. There's well over 100,000 properties in the National Register. Most of them are of local historic significance. Somebody say, well, I've got a National Register historic district. I don't have to worry about anything. Not true. The only way that you can assure anything is saved is if you own it and decide to save it for the time that you save it. Of course, after you sell it, whatever can happen to it. But the only way you can assure they're going to be preserved in perpetuity is there's a preservation agreement, either in the form of a deed covenant or in the form of a preservation easement on the property. And that has to be done by the owner of the property. And I'll get into more detail about that. Now, let me stop for a minute. Gosh, I know I spouted all that off. Anybody got any questions about what I've said?
Maybe just we have two such landmarks or designated by our local in Derita. The gymnasium on Rumpel Road.
Oh, I know it well.
And Nevins Inc. on Nevin Road. Those are the only two that I know about so far.
If they're privately owned, publicly owned, it doesn't make any difference. They're not protected beyond 1 year.
Okay, gotcha.
And that's the thing to know.
That's the distinction, yes.
Now, let me talk about the real people. I think people really get, if you believe in preservation, which obviously I do, if you believe it's important for people to have a sense of history, which obviously I do, the really powerful tools are the private nonprofit tools, because they're so much more flexible. And they basically are the way to get to work with owners, because let me tell you who decides whether something's going to be preserved. It's the owner. The owner, we have an allodial system of land ownership. And our legal system has great protection for private property rights, which, by the way, I am very much in favor of. And therefore, really, you really can't do anything ultimately to save anything in the built environment unless you've got cooperative owners. Now, that's the fundamental reality. Now, let me start talking about Derita. Now, I'm sure as you define Derita, which is a much broader area, and I'm sure that what you're dealing with there, but basically, historically, is a rural landscape that was not directly affected for the most part by the railroad, was much more affected by the advent of the automobile. You know, there were no automobiles in Mecklenburg County in 1900. Just wrap that around you. Can you imagine what the automobile has done? What the truck has done to the built environment? It's had tremendous, tremendous impact. And of course, you know that you certainly see that in your area with interstate highways, with state highways, with roadways, with, my gosh, I go up to North Mecklenburg and it is a traffic nightmare with all that congestion up there. But, I focused for that purpose here on the old railroad town. But that doesn't mean what I'm going to tell you is not applicable to the wider area as well. But I will tell you, the public preservation agencies are very worthwhile. And by the way, they have one great advantage over private nonprofit. The government has taxing authority. And I know from paying my property taxes that, the government understandably needs money to be able to operate. And that's a tremendous advantage to have that money. The Historic Landmarks Commission, it's got a multi-million-dollar revolving fund. Now, that's a powerful tool, no doubt. But the places that really are the great preservation centers of the country all have strong private, nonprofit preservation agencies. And that's what Preserve Mecklenburg is trying to be. Now, let's look at the pictures. And then I'll talk about one specific house and I'll give an example. Now understand that I'm sure there are people here who know more about the history of Derita than I do, particularly when you get down to specific properties and specific families and specific events and so forth. And what I'm really doing is just talking about what I see. Now, I have driven through Derita because I started teaching at UNCC before it was UNCC, when it was Charlotte College. I started teaching in 1963, and I taught until 2014. And obviously, anybody who teaches at UNCC is going to be aware of Derita. And I've known Derita I've known Gibbon Road. I've driven down, I can't tell you how many times I've driven from Statesville Avenue to West Sugar Creek going down Gibbon Road. I can't tell you how many times. But so you know it now. But the part of Derita that has always just absolutely blown me away in terms of its character defining nature is the residential area to the immediate west of the railroad tracks. And that's the area that I'm looking at here. If you look at the, a street like Derita Avenue, I mean, someone like myself, I mean, and I don't just look at the buildings. I look at the landscape. I look at the proximity of the road to the railroad track. I obviously look at the trees. You can see, of course, there's been a concerted effort to create a row of trees along Derita Avenue. But I look at that particular property and you note that there obviously have been many, many places torn down along Derita Avenue. And there's a lot of open land there. Now, a lot of people will say, well, that means there's nothing to save. Well, that's not true. Here's the thing, to deny change is to deny life. Life is nothing more than change. And believe me, somebody at my age, boy, am I ever aware of that. So the issue is not to try, if you try to resist fundamental change that's going to be part of our future, you're going to end up, it's like trying to keep, I remember when I was a little boy growing up in Winston-Salem, I got very upset when my mother built this wonderful snowman for me to look out the window. And when the sun came out and it started melting, I got very upset. And my mother said, and nothing you can do about it. You got to accept the power of change. Preservation is not about preventing change. It's about managing change. And to manage change in such a way that you try to give a sense of continuity. We are all mortal creatures. We are all links in a chain. We all inherit far more than we're ever going to create. And of course, the most important thing in many ways about our life is our legacy. And history is not the past. The past is a function of time. History is a matter of human beings considering the past. It's a function of human memory. And it's always changing because history says more about today than it says about yesterday because it's being remembered as it is now. So the issue here and the challenge here in this very, very, really special area along the most eastern reaches of Gibbon Road down the street we're looking at right here, and also Peach Street, which is a wonderful street too. We see there's a lot of open land, and listen, that's when that commuter rail comes, that stuff's going to be filled up, folks, and there's no way to stop it. I mean, it's food. It's a snowman. Snowman. The sun's going to come out. It's going to change. The issue is, what are you going to do to try to control the development, manage the development that occurs there, to maintain a sense of those trees or that open space and so forth? And what I've said is just as applicable here. Now, let me tell you about a conception a lot of people have about preservation. We in the preservation world call them Williamsburgers. They think that it has to be beautiful, it has to be grand. If we tried to preserve, Abraham Lincoln was not a handsome man, but he was very historically important. But buildings like this, they are part of our history. They're part of our fabric. They are documents. They are artifacts. Some people think Washington had to sleep there. And also many people believe that you shouldn't try to keep things like this. Well, I would say you really have to weigh together, but I would say that Derita is going to be a better place. And admittedly, I'm talking about this area, but it could be applicable throughout what you regard now from a planning perspective as Derita. To think about, and I'm just going to show you these pictures. Think about how you can fill this in and not lose all the sense of history. I mean, this is such a delicate area. This is such a delicate area. Okay. Now, I'm not going to click on this hyperlink, but you can, and I'll tell you, Teresa, if it's okay with you, I will send you the hyperlink to you, which you could share with anybody.
Yes.
And they could just go on and look at this and go crazy. Now, let me talk about how we do things. Now, I'll show you an example. This is in Cornelius. This is a project we're doing in Cornelius. By the way, shut me up if I'm going too long, okay? These aren't, George Washington didn't sleep here. These are Queen Anne style cottages built all over the place. They're a Victorian era house. They're basically designed to be very, very ornate. See all that filigree and all that stuff there? This was an example of celebrating the mechanical age. These houses were built in about 1905. They were in a middle class neighborhood of Cornelius. Now, here's the owner. Now, let me tell you, the key factor in preserving anything is the owner. You know, you can be the best pitcher in the world in baseball. You got to have a catcher. You can be the best quarterback in the world. You got to have a good receiver. You have to have an owner. Now, let me tell you, here's a reality. For most people, the greatest asset they have in their portfolio is their home, or it's a residential property that they own. And everybody reaches a stage in life when the time has come that you have to sell your property. And that was true with the people who owned these two properties. Now, Cornelius is being overrun with suburban growth. But all of these outlying towns, like Cornelius, like Davidson, like Pineville, like Matthews, they want to retain something of what they call their small town feel. And that means that these streetscapes of these houses are very important to them. Now, it's very easy to be idealistic about property you do not own. But it is unrealistic for this person not to receive a fair return on his property when he sells it. Somebody says, well, you know, he ought to give it to somebody. Give me a break. You know, so it ain't going to happen. You have to find a way to try to preserve these houses in a way that will give them fair market price for it. And that's what we do. Now here's what we did. With the agreement of the owner, we got an exclusive assignable option to buy the property. This isn't in a local historic district. This isn't an historic landmark. A private nonprofit preservation group can deal with any property. We got a 1-year exclusive assignable option. Now, what does that mean? We're the only ones that can buy it. We don't have the money to buy it. We're just getting an option to buy it. It's an assignable option. We want to find somebody to assign it to that does have the money to buy it. And the third thing is it's exclusive. That means a developer can't come in. Listen, developers are absolute friends of preservation. And developers, they are simply people who are trying to secure a profit for their company. And that's the way capitalism works. So they're not in any way, but we don't want a developer to swoop in, because I tell you what, it's easier to calculate your costs when you're dealing with a blank page. So what a lot of developers want to do, scrape it clean, start all over. But we say, we're not going to assign it to anybody unless they agree to a preservation agreement, unless they accept an easement, preservation easement, or deed covenant that's going to assure the preservation of that property. Now, right next door, now here's the way you make that. Does anybody have a question?
Yeah, sorry, Dan. I just wanted to say maybe another 2 minutes or so, and
I'll get it through.
Yeah.
I'll be done.
Thank you.
It is infill development that makes it all possible. Now, in other words, the developer is building new townhouses behind, but these two houses are being bought by the Kane Center, which is a cultural museum organization. And look what we're allowing to happen. They're going to look the same from the street, but they're being gutted on the inside. But still, when people drive down the street, here's the way it's going to end up. Right there. So I would say, and I'll wind up right now. I would say, and I could go on, believe me. If you will work with a private nonprofit preservation group and convince owners that we can find ways, and these people are getting their price. They're getting their price. One of these is going to be used to teach pottery. One of these houses is going to be used to teach pottery. The one right here, this is going to be administrative offices for an arts department of the Kane Center. So preservation can work economically, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate that. Anybody got any questions for Dan before we move on? I don't know if Carrie is still here. She had to drop off. Thomas.
Well, I was going to say, we mentioned earlier the gymnasium that's in Derita as a possible historical location, but that's still owned by the county. What's the difference, I guess, in a property like that that's owned by the government in order to preserve it versus these private locations that you've been talking about?
The only protection for the gymnasium, and I was very much involved with doing the study on that gymnasium when I was with the Historic Landmarks Commission. The only thing that safeguards that property, unless the county has accepted a preservation easement or has accepted a deed covenant is the decision of the county. There is no difference.
I'm afraid that doesn't. I'm afraid that doesn't give me a good feeling. So.
Yeah, and I'm not sure the status, but it it is recognized as a historic landmark by Mecklenburg County, or by, I guess, by the county. That's the process that it went through. So I would guess until a higher or some kind of developmental pressure comes along.
Well, I guess the basic message that I gave to you was, if you want to assure something safe, you've got to get a preservation easement or deed covenant put on it.
Mm-hmm.
And you would want to focus on the private preservation group to secure that. A public landmarks commission can do it, but government is political. I'd say no more.
Mm-hmm.
It is political, and it's very legitimate, but you have to have both a public and a private component to an effective preservation movement.
Gotcha. I think the question that I have is just, apart from these older homes that you showed us around Peach Street and Maple Street and Derita Avenue, kind of behind the post office, we have neighborhoods built in the 50s, early 50s and 60s, like Royal Oaks, Allen Hills. I think Royal Oaks may be a little older than Allen Hills. I'm not sure, but and then the area where Mark is also just that age, where they're now in 60 years old. Is that
Listen, here's the great big difference.
Yes.
A private preservation agency can work with anything which they judge to be of cultural significance.
Okay.
When you get into the public thing, you've got to go through this very legitimate but complex process of designating these properties. For example, you and I were talking about Grove Park, weren't we?
Yes.
What we'd need to do to get involved in Grove Park is owners that would work with us. I mean, there's nothing to stop us from dealing with neighborhoods from the 1950s, 60s, 70s, 80s, for that matter. If we judge them to be of cultural significance, we don't have to worry about these legal definitions. I mean, I could give you some examples of what we've done along those lines. So, I'm not speaking against the public agencies. They do great work, but they're not the total answer. And for flexibility and broad definition, you're far better off working with an agency like Preserve Mecklenburg.
Okay. Anybody else got any questions?
Hey there. I just dropped I had to drop and jump right back on, and I see these renderings. Really quickly, can you tell me what these pictures are?
They are of the adaptive reuse of two houses in downtown Cornelius that the Kane Center has bought and is going to be using them for programmatic purposes of their operations, and which we were basically only interested in protecting their view up to the street and were made economically, the project was made economically viable by allowing a developer to build new townhouses behind, but to essentially preserve the street frontage of these houses so that will maintain the scale and character of the street in Cornelius.
Oh, that's lovely. Another quick question, because I know we're short on time. Has anyone mentioned how, is this what you're saying that is a proposed outlook of downtown Derita? Is that what you're comparing this to?
Well, I was saying that certainly downtown Derita could have exactly the same approach that was used with these two houses. Yes, but you have to have cooperative owners. That's what opens the door. If an owner will understand, because these owners got their full market price for the property. I mean, this preservation happened with infill development. The thing about downtown Derita, the thing that strikes me about, that the area of Peach Street and so forth, there's so much open space. And I would say that that's a real asset.
No, I agree.
Because development's going to happen. There ain't any doubt about
100%.
it.
We just want development that's going to look like this. And to your point, I think what some of the folks in DeRidder are scared of is if you give the green light, right, we're gonna get houses that don't quite look like this, or development that doesn't quite look like this, especially with the proposed light rail. I love
Exactly.
that. I'm sorry?
Absolutely. You're right on target. Because, you know, Derita, as we know it, is going to come under unbelievable development pressure. And you have to accommodate that. You can't say no, no, no. It's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
The thing to do is to manage it in such a way that these historic resources are part of that, so that you get the same kind of character retention. I mean, these trees, this space here, you know, the scale, the presence to the street, the way the new development is spaced and designed can have an incredible impact on the retention of the character of that area.
That's right.
But you see, a lot of people, I tell you, I get calls by so many people who get upset at a preservation effort. They want to save something, and it's way too late.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got to have, a lot of people believe that preservation means you're going to make less money when you sell your property. You've got to convince people that's not true. It might be true in some instances, but if you think creatively and imaginatively, it can be very different.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dan.
Well, I'm just trying to be helpful.
Yes. All right, folks, I've just got, let me see what I have real quick to share.
I'll stop sharing here in just a minute.
I think I've taken
You got it.
Yeah. And yeah, this map view that I have in front of you guys right now, it's not an aerial view, but it's another part of, it's across the railroad tracks from the area Dan was just talking about. But there is so much vacant land, as you can see, all back in here. So it's basically what we've seen and what we've been talking about for, a little over, or close to 15 years in Derita, is that change will come. And I think finally the day is here that, the pressures will start, and are starting. We have some townhomes already, coming just north of this, of Hunter Avenue. We have townhomes and of course Puckett's. We didn't even touch on Puckett's, but we could not preserve Puckett's as much as for 7 years we tried. Well, I guess there just wasn't the same kind of energy or will to actually preserve the building of Puckett's. But anyway, that's history, ancient history now, and sadly we have to prepare ourselves to see the Puckett's building being demolished here soon, because the new owners they are planning a new apartment building there that will draw some elements in the design to kind of call back to Puckett's. But we'll see. Hopefully we'll have them on next month to present some information on what's actually going to go up in that space. But that project is happening. The property changed hands. There's no preservation easement or anything like that. So the next topic I just wanted to quickly talk about is transit tax, the increase in the sales tax for transit and transportation projects will be on the ballot in November. And so I just thought I would put in here the potential projects within our area that are, would be up for consideration if all this extra funding is approved in November by voters, and which also includes, a whole new body to approve and manage the funding around these projects. So I won't go into all the details, but some of the things that we've really been waiting a long time on, a signal at Gibbon and West Sugar Creek, and then also the sidewalk projects, Sugar Creek sidewalk project, Nevin Road. The complete street upgrade is basically sidewalks, bike lanes, and street trees. It's creating that kind of streetscape that we were talking about earlier, but on these streets to give that safe pedestrian and bike, and obviously, if you're in a car, the signals and so on will help as well. So those are the projects. These will be on the slides, and I can refer you to a link, and you can look at much broader areas. Every district, there's several pages of identified projects. And you guys can decide how you're going to vote in November. And then I don't want to go into this in detail. You've probably seen this online or news reports, but this is a project on West Sugar Creek that converts 2 motels that were side by side right at the 85 exit on West Sugar Creek on the north side, so on the right side of 85. And they're being converted into apartments with a very nice community amenities, as hotels really give you that opportunity for adaptive reuse. So they're micro apartments with a nice pool and gathering area, and the community center for this little apartment complex will be pretty awesome. I toured some of the units. They're still, I think the first building is up for leasing already. They're still working on the second building that you can see behind the guy who gave us the tour. Very interesting project, and just another example of adaptive reuse, even if it's, not necessarily historic, but it certainly leaves us with something that is way better than what we had.
Teresa, these two hotels, are the projects linked together somehow or another, or are they separate projects?
No, it's one project.
One big project.
Yes, okay. Yeah, I believe it will all be known as the Charlie, and some number of units I'm forgetting now. 212 units in total between the two buildings.
Question, Teresa.
Yes.
Do you know what the price point are for the
They're
apartments?
renting, I believe, around 1,100 and they're basically studio, like a hotel room. I mean, they haven't changed the floor plans really. But yeah, around 1,100. They're not they're what you call naturally affordable. They're not subsidized or anything. They are a market rate, but there's not much out there that is, brand new with these kinds of amenities and access with public transit and all of that. There's not much out there for that price.
Well, that side doesn't have access to public transit. They're gonna have to like walk across a bridge, 85. And
oh well, the bus line is what I'm talking about. But yeah,
they're gonna have to cross. On our side of Sugar Creek, there's no bus line up there. They'll have to walk across the street. They're gonna have to walk across the bridge over 85.
Oh, I see but the project, and I'm not sure, I don't have the details in front of me, but there is the line, that the bus that will be running between Derita and the light rail, that is going to be coming at some point. It's part of the big plan.
They cut that out of the initial rollout. It was part of the initial rollout to add that route, the 25 route, and they cut that out of it, like I guess to save money. Like they aren't adding any new bus routes to the current plan for Better Bus. They're just extending frequencies right now on current routes, adding frequencies, and they were talking differently in 2024. They were actually talking about adding that route from the mobility hub to the Sugar Creek.
Yes. Wow. So and I guess I need to update myself over there on that.
Basically, the one useful addition for the whole area would have been that bus route that goes from the Derita downtown to the light rail station that now exists on Sugar Creek Road. That one addition would have been a big boost for the area, and they cut that out.
Yes, they cut it out.
Brilliant.
I think they're planning to build it, but they have to pay for. They're paying for the red line first. They're getting they're paying for the red line first. That's the priority. So it's just really, I don't know.
See that for 20 years,
guys. I don't want to derail the meeting. I was looking forward to voting yes for this, but just for the way that it just seems like much the same Charlotte way about things getting done around here. I'm very regretfully, like Teresa, we've been going back and forth about this for a couple of years. I'm very regretfully it's like I feel like I'm being forced to choose between two bad results, and I'm trying to pick the best of the bad results. And so for me right now, voting no and forcing all the business people that want the red line to be built to come back to the table is a better option, even though it'll pose significant delays on some of the greater progress we need for our area. But anyway, I don't want to derail it. I think the Charlie seems like a good option for people just trying to get their feet on the ground in Charlotte, regardless. and a walk across the bridge is to get to the 211 is better than nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Not by much.
Yeah, well, I don't know the status of that at all, because as far as I remember, there was a federal grant, which I guess that could have changed too, that would fund that mobility hub and the bus from
Yeah,
Derita to the light rail, and I'm not aware of such a drastic change.
I'll check my emails and I'll email it to you. But I checked
Yeah.
with Brian Horton recently about the 25 route, and it's no longer a part of the plan.
Wow.
Brilliant. Just brilliant again.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
I think
all
I
right.
think the ride is still set to get some significant stuff, but I just think it's just I don't know. It feels like some people went to Raleigh, got in a room, and drew and decide, and then put some ideas together, and really didn't talk to everybody. I don't know. I'm sorry, Teresa. I'll stop. If anyone wants to keep talking with me about it, feel free to message me in the chat, and we can maybe talk offline, because I don't want to derail Teresa's meeting, especially with the fact that I was so late today. Which I'm sorry for being late.
Well, it's good to see you, Joe. And yeah, you know, I don't know how anything happens without more funding. But
Yes, you're right.
and all this legislation has set up a whole new body to decide how these funds can be spent, but nothing will happen at all without the agreement to increase the funding, as far as
I agree with that.
And,
and I think one of the things is, these meetings happen. We don't know about them. People are in those meetings that do not fight for us and do not care about us. Period. Stop. Every time. We always are on the losing end almost every time in this entire area.
Yeah.
I have a question. So if we do vote yes for the transportation, are we voting yes to the new assembly, the transportation assembly also?
Yes, and if you vote no, the assembly will the new 27 member board will not be formed.
Right.
Because my
The
concern
other thing
is
about voting no just is that it could be another 5 years before something comes back to be voted on.
I just don't want
agree.
there to be an assembly full of developers and bigwigs who are making decisions on funding who have nothing to do with us or the city or the area that they're creating in. And the accountability is leaving the city council members to a group of private citizens, and that's something I'm not comfortable with.
Yep.
Yeah, we can.
Welcome to the history of Derita.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not new to this, Thomas. Like, I'm not new to this at all. But I am excited. I'm excited for the growth in the private development. However, I'm not excited with I'm just not excited with with the process, right? I don't like the buck being passed to people who do not have an interest in the folks who would actually be using these services. That's my problem. And they won't be held accountable at the end of the day.
Teresa, and I agree with your take that it's going to push things back. My assessment is it's just, and I'm someone that stands to benefit. Like if they're going to put more street lights on Graham Street, that's great, because I live right by Graham Street, and it's very hazardous at nighttime. So I'm not. I ride my bike, so more bike lanes. What I'm saying is that this plan, they have no plans to really like tackle displacement. So it's going to be the blue line running through Parkwood all over again, where people are going to get pushed out because there's no plans to figure out how to. There's no funding for anti-displacement. The 27 member panel. The board members are like the makeup of the board members. There's like 3 of Charlotte's 12 appointees have to be from the business community. And then one of the appointees appointed by the 2 of the appointees appointed by the Speaker of the House and the Senate Pro Tem in North Carolina are also from the business community. So they're going to have 5 members from the business community. So that sort of speaks to Carrie's concerns. My biggest concern is just stuff like that, whereas on the other hand, there's no requirement for there to be like people who actually use public transportation as their primary means of transportation. on the board. So it's just kind of, I don't know. It just seems Charlotte way-ish, and so to me, it's regretful because of your sentiment right there that it's going to set things back at least 5 years. That I regret it. That I'm going to personally vote no. But your sentiment, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of setback, is on the money. But the leadership, our leadership, our city leadership should have thought more about that and been prioritized our needs over their desire to get this responsibility out of their purview. Because that's what it seems like. It seems like they were so quick to get this into an authority so they wouldn't have to make decisions. And they've kind of left us hanging, in my opinion. So, but I get what you're saying too. That's why it's a very tough vote for me.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we need to talk about that and read more about that.
I'll send you some of the emails I got from Brian, and I'll see if I can find you the remix link that shows you the overlay map of the route.
Yeah.
From the 25 route that was there in 2024 compared to what's being planned shown in the plan now for Better Bus.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me on the face of it because there's so much housing that's been added right on West Sugar Creek.
Yeah.
Maybe less so on that side of 85 on the north side.
Yeah. And if you want to put it in the community notes, I'll find the podcast that Clayton Seeley did and Tesho, I forget his last name, did where they interviewed Braxton Winston about it. And he debated Larry Shaheen about it. And I think it gives a pretty fair assessment of how, both sides of the issue.
Mm-hmm.
That might be worth sharing with the group.
Yes, please do. Yeah, I haven't listened to Clayton's podcast yet, but I know they exist, and I just haven't been able to.
Yeah, I'll get it to you, Teresa. Please feel free to share it with the group, because I think there's.
Will you email it to me, because I never know how to find stuff from these.
I'm gonna have to figure out how to find this one. I forget the name of their podcast.
Yeah. And I can look as well, and of course I can ask Clayton for a link.
He'll be glad to promote his podcast.
But yeah, exactly. So, all right. Well, that's,
I'm sorry, Teresa. I hope I really meant to just make a quick I wasn't trying to derail anything.
No, I'm not. I just, I did not know that plan has changed so much, and I also don't necessarily want to get into the weeds about particular bus routes. It's a whole new system for funding and making these decisions that we're voting.
I think the episode will be really good touching on that. It won't. I don't think it mentions Derita at all.
Well, and the other thing, Teresa, one last thing I'll say. This slide that you've got up right now, all of these things here are to be determined. To be determined. That's
a big issue.
There are no concrete ideas in any of this to tell us, exactly what are you proposing. So I've heard a lot of, and unfortunately I have the bad result of knowing a lot of the history or seeing a lot of the history of exactly this kind of thing. To be determined for Derita, to be determined. We've got this idea for Derita, but they turn out to be nothing in the future because they don't go through with them. They don't fulfill them. And that's like I said, once again, that's been the long history of Derita. A lot of nice proposals or a lot of nice ideas, but nothing comes to fruition. Nothing concrete happens.
Okay. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but for the purposes of this exercise, in order for them to go into complete detail and have actual, down to the last.
I'm not asking for that, but nothing there shows real concrete, nothing shows a real proposal. It's always to be determined what needs to be done. Well, they know what needs to be done, or they should have some better ideas, I think. Not just
the only thing that we're voting to actually be built is the red line. And then we're also creating this 27-member panel. That's what's essentially being voted on. I'll see if I can find the ballot question too, and so that can be shared,
Well,
Teresa.
and the funding, of course,
Yeah, the funding. Yeah, the funding. Well, yeah, the funding.
for
Yeah, but the red line is definitely going to be funded, and then there will be a fund. There will be whatever the additional funding that's raised from the sales tax would be also for the other things eventually.
Mm-hmm.
It's I'm not anyway. I don't want to. I wasn't trying to derail things. I feel like I did. But I will get the information to the group so that you guys can.
Yeah, I'll send it out
so that you can have it there for your to consider. So, especially since I came in here and did this.
I really appreciate the information. Honest, it's been very helpful for me.
All right. Thank you, Joseph. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too. I'll be more frequent. I plan on being more frequent in these things.
Yeah.
I kind of got out of the habit, and then I kept saying, "Oh shoot!" At like 10 o'clock or 10:30, I'm like, "Shoot, it's Thursday." So
Teresa, I don't mean to be too personal or in people's business, but is Sylvia doing okay? She hasn't been on the last few meetings, and I just worry. I just wondered how she was doing.
Yeah, I will check with her. I have not spoken to her this week. But yeah, as far as I know, she is doing fine. She has lots of issues with her laptop and getting on the Zoom calls.
Okay.
I did in September. Yeah, that's where we are. September 13th, we did have breakfast at Maria's. It was just a small group. And we're missing Mel today as well, but he had a doctor's appointment. I've not heard from Sylvia, but as far as I know, she is still in fighting good health, and it's just technical issues to get on this Zoom call, unfortunately.
That's good to know.
Yeah, thanks for asking, and I'll pass that on to her. And we'll try to make sure that she can get on. She can come to my house and sit next to me if she wants to. She's just down the road. We're neighbors. But yeah, thank you for asking on that. And I think I don't really have much else. All things considered, I think this adaptive reuse of these motels is a very positive move in the right direction. And then I just wanted to share, some of you guys were involved in the process to provide input on these murals. This will also be part of that same project. There was a voting process this week, so this is the direction of that the mural will go. The two designers will still be working on it, and I'll send out more information. They are calling for pictures or nominations, or if you have somebody in particular that should be included on a mural like this on West Sugar Creek, the information will be in the email. And that's just part of that same project. And I don't think I have anything else. There's no rezonings or anything of any great scale. Next month we'll try to get the packets.
Man, I'm on Zoom.
I know you've been on there an hour. I don't see your credit for your $3,000 yet.
Sorry, trying to mute
Yeah.
Dan, but
oh well.
Figure out how to do that quickly. All right, folks, I think that's everything, unless you have anything else to add. Maybe next month, it'll be after the election, I think, that we will have our meeting. Let me just look. Yeah, it will be. So if we want to discuss any more on this transit tax, we may have to do something in between. But I'll send the links and the podcast stuff. So there's more to listen to kind of understand the different sides of that debate. So you can make an informed decision when you go to vote in November. And early voting actually starts mid-October. So yeah, if anybody is interested in chatting more about it, let me know, and we can just get together in the meantime. And obviously the red line is close to my heart in Derita, and
mine too.
But rail in general, it's very hard for it to actually serve 80% of the existing neighborhoods of Charlotte. So I understand the pushback against spending so much on rail. But that's just an aside.
I'm not necessarily against the rail. I just don't think it's like there's just not there. The city could have done more to with the leverage they had by owning that line to get more of what Charlotte needs, is my opinion. Anyway, that could be another Zoom meeting that we schedule. I have a few. I know somebody that would probably be willing, who's against it, who'd be willing to speak and have that conversation. I could pass off to you Robert Dawkins from Action NC. And maybe we could find someone that's for it and maybe just do a Zoom or something. Anyway, I'll email you, Teresa, and we can talk offline about that more if you'd like. And anybody else, feel free to I should be in the email distribution, and or my phone number is 704-421-2320 if anybody wants to talk with me about this further.
All right. Thank you, Joseph. Okay, I'm just going to go back to next meeting will be November 6th, Thursday at 9. And let me know if you are interested in planning an in-person meeting / party celebration in December.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
I'll vote for it. I'm not the decider. I know I'll vote for it. I just sent you the podcast links, Teresa. Okay, one link for Spotify, a link for Apple Podcasts, and then a link to then just information on how to search the episode.
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you guys. I don't know. Yeah, we're coming up for 10:30. I think it's definitely time to call it. So thank you very much for being here. Thank you, Dan. We appreciate you. And we'll see what we can do to help influence the development that is inevitably going to come our way.
Yep. All right.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.